everybody, and welcome to today's video. And in today's video, I'll be doing a 2024 election prediction between Mike Pence and Stacey Abrams. As you all probably saw when you clicked on this, I am using a different thumbnail format. I've been doing that in recent days. Please let me know if you guys want me to stick with this or go back to the old one that I was previously using. I'm going to get started by labeling all of Abrams' safe states. So Colorado, realistically, is going to be safe. She's strong enough with Hispanic and Latino voters, whereas Pence is weak enough, or Pence is weak. Pence is all right in the suburbs. But I don't know that it'll be enough, and he's not going to get near enough rural turnout to be able to win it, or even make it not likely. Maybe it could be like a really high likely, but it's realistically probably still going to be a safe Abrams state. For Abrams likely states, New Mexico, Minnesota, Maine at large, and Virginia. In New Mexico, she's strong enough with Hispanic and Latino voters. Pence, she's not amazing for the working class. She's not amazing for oil workers, but Pence simply won't be able to get nearly enough turnout. They probably won't make up a significant part of the electorate. In Virginia, she's really good with black voters, but she's also going to do very well in those D.C. suburbs, whereas Pence just won't be able to get the rural turnout. In Maine at large, it's pretty inelastic. I could see Pence doing alright with white, rural, college-educated voters, but I still see it going to Abrams likely. Minnesota, Pence is not going to get the working class turnout needed. Abrams is going to be able to do well enough with the working class voters that do turn out. And she's going to be able to do well enough in Minneapolis. For Pence's likely states, he gets Nebraska's first, Kansas, Missouri, Indiana, South Carolina, Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alaska. So in Kansas, or Nebraska's first, let's go start there. Pence is probably better than Trump for the suburbs, so they're probably going to continue to shift to the left. And he's also not going to be able to get the rural turnout in Kansas, or I guess he also won't be able to do well enough in Lincoln, the parts of Lincoln that are in the district. In Kansas, it was likely in 2020, I don't see him getting the same rural numbers that Trump gets. Abrams is going to do well enough in those Kansas City suburbs. In Missouri, there's not going to be Pence is not going to get enough rural turnout to carry it by a safe margin, whereas Abrams is going to be able to do well enough in St. Louis and Kansas City to keep turnout high enough and do well enough in the suburbs. It'll probably be like R plus 13 or R plus 14. In Indiana, it's going to be a very similar thing. Abrams is going to be able to retain enough turnout from Indianapolis, whereas Pence won't be able to get enough rural turnout and won't be able to get enough working class turnout. The working class voters that do turn out, I feel like they would probably favor Abrams, or at least favor Abrams more than they favored Biden. In Louisiana, it would likely be a shift towards Abrams within the working class. In Louisiana and Mississippi, Pence is not going to get near enough rural turnout needed, white rural turnout, whereas Abrams is going to do really well to get lots and lots of rural black turnout, which is going to really help her. South Carolina, very similar thing. It's probably going to be like R plus 8 or R plus 9. Abrams is going to be able to turn out a lot of rural black voters, or just a lot of black voters in general, whereas Pence just can't get out enough white rural voters. In Alaska, Abrams is going to be able to do well enough with Native American voters that are going to continue to turn out at higher rates. Once again, with Pence being such a weak working class candidate, we'll likely see Abrams do better with the working class than Biden, probably do better with oil workers, or potentially do better with oil workers. Pence is like a type of, he's kind of a traditional Republican in the sense where we saw, I think, a lot of traditional Republicans, we saw traditional Republicans do fairly well with oil workers. So you could see him do well with oil workers, from that perspective, I guess. But I don't necessarily know. I feel like after Trump, I could see Romney doing well with oil workers before Trump. After Trump, I don't know that he'll be able to. And Pence is probably more Trumpist than Romney, but probably still establishmentarian, so probably just slightly better with the working class than Romney. For Abrams' lean states, by the way, Nevada is probably, there's a good chance it's going to be likely. Pence just won't be able to do well enough for the rural vote, whereas Abrams will be able to, or Pence is not going to turn out nearly enough rural voters, whereas Abrams is going to be fairly strong with the Hispanic and Latino vote. And it's probably going to result in it being, it's going to be on like the line between being lean and likely, but I'm going to give it to her likely, just to be generous. For her lean states, though, she gets Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Nebraska's first, and Georgia. So in Nebraska's first, she's I don't necessarily see Pence being terrible for the suburbs. I could see it being likely. Actually, just since she's strong enough for the suburbs and they're going to continue to shift, I'm going to give it to her likely. In Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, all these states are similar, except for Wisconsin is the most conservative, followed by Pennsylvania, and then Michigan being the most liberal. Um, Abrams is going to retain enough black turnout. She's going to do pretty well with the black vote. Mike Pence is not going to turn out nearly enough rural voters, not do nearly well enough for the working class. He's not going to turn out a lot of the working class, and once again, the working class is probably going to shift to the left because a lot of the working class voters that do turn out, or I guess we're going to say less Trumpist working class turnout. And plus, a lot of the working class is traditionally liberal, so they might flip to Abrams with an establishmentarian, like Pence on the ballot. Um, Although I could see Pence, being slightly better than like Romney because he's more Trumpist, I guess, than Romney. I guess that could help him. In New Hampshire, I would assume that it would. In New Hampshire, I just see Pence maybe doing better with the white rural college educated vote. It could easily be likely. It's gonna go to Abrams. So, that's not really. It's clearly gonna go to Abrams. In Georgia, um, Abrams is going to this is her home state. She's going to do very well in Atlanta. Turn out a lot of black voters, also rural black voters. She's going to do very, very well. And Pence just won't be able to turn out enough rural voters. This is probably going to be like D+4 maybe. For Pence's lean states, he gets Iowa, Ohio, Texas, and Maine second. Iowa, Ohio, Maine second. Pence is not great. He doesn't have a whole lot of populist appeal. I don't think that Abrams does either. If any, I think Iowa's probably the least likely to go blue. I could see her doing well enough with the working class over here, and in Ohio, I could see her doing well enough in Cleveland and all of these bigger cities. And in Maine second, I could see her doing well enough, I guess, with the white rural vote. I think they're all probably gonna be Pence plus 1, 2, maybe 3, 4, something like that. In Texas, I think that Abrams is actually a fairly strong candidate for the state. The only problem with her is that it's how conservative it was and how she's not immensely strong with a lot of these demographics. Because Pence is not going to be able to, or at least against Pence, he's not going to be able to turn out enough rural voters. Abrams is pretty good in the suburbs. She's going to do pretty well with the Hispanic and Latino vote. Probably going to be R plus 1, R plus 2, maybe R plus 3, potentially R plus 4. And I think that might be all of Pence's tilt states. For Abrams' tilt states, she gets North Carolina, whereas Pence gets Arizona and Florida. So in Arizona, I just see Pence doing better with the traditional Republican suburban base, whereas I don't know that there's necessarily a whole lot of room to improve in terms of vote share with Hispanic and Latino voters, given how they tend to vote. I don't see Abrams getting 70, 80, 90% of the Hispanic and Latino vote, and I see Pence doing better in the suburbs. It could go to Abrams, so it might be a bit of a toss-up. I was generous to Abrams with Nevada. I'm going to be generous to Pence with Arizona. In Florida, Pence is going to do pretty bad with the Hispanic and Latino vote in Miami. And he's not going to do great in a lot of these bigger cities. The suburbs are going to continue to shift to the left. I just don't see him doing poorly enough in the suburbs. If he had Trump, if he was just himself with Trumpist levels of appeal in the suburbs, it would probably be tilt to lean Abrams, but he has enough appeal to nearly hang on. North Carolina, Pence is not going to be able to turn out enough rural voters. Abrams is going to be able to do very well with the black vote, probably turn out enough black voters. And Pence it's going to be a very similar situation with the working class. Pence is not great with the working class, probably won't turn out enough of the working class, and it'll nearly go to Abrams. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like below. Stay tuned for my next video tomorrow. Comment suggestions down below. Once again, please let me know if you guys want me to keep with these new thumbnails or go back to the old ones. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.